Hi, everybody, and we're back to the Pagan Show. And today I have one of my very best friends,
Hmm.
long-term friend.
Long,
Uh,
long.
yeah, and we've known me for a while, Laura Enright. And she's been growing in the community. She's done so many activities, but one of the things she's written 6 books. We'll talk a little bit about that. And she's been a lifelong, as long as I know, a pagan here in Chicago. And so, one of the great cities for paganism. Uh, and so, hi, Laura, welcome.
And how you doing?
I'm great.
Good.
Love doing this show. Love talking to people and
Yeah,
introducing them to people
you were
they
made for
might.
that. You were
And,
made
and,
for that.
thank you. And introducing people they may not know who has been influential in the community. And one of the things you've done really well is that you're very supportive of projects and people, and you so many you talk about, and you're also an author, and not just a metaphysical author, but you're also a mainstream author in the sense of
Hmm.
you got books that are much more mainstream. And
Hmm.
even there, you slipped little bits of paganism and Wicca and witchcraft in there. I love that. But
Yeah.
what brought you to being a pagan?
It's kind of interesting. I never really, I was raised a Catholic, but my
Hmm.
parents were never that into the faith. We didn't attend church every Sunday and all that. I did go to a Catholic school. Maybe that's what
Hmm.
turned me against Catholicism. But yeah, I never was that into like other kids would go into the altar society or the May Queen or whatever it was. And I was never that into it. I went to school, I came home. And so I just kind of like, I guess I always had kind of an open mind in a lot of ways. But when I felt that um, Catholicism had and Christianity had kind of let me down, I was already starting to tear away from the church when I was 14 because I didn't like their attitude toward divorce. I didn't like their attitude toward homosexuality, abortion, and so we were parting ways. But then I never felt like I was comforted by the religion. So yeah, I kind of went on a little quest, little spiritual quest, and I played with atheism, I played with agnosticism, I played with continuing Christianity, and then eventually I found like a more metaphysical lifestyle, more metaphysical. This was during the 80s when that was really big, and yeah, I kind of drifted toward it. I eventually met you and Don, and it satisfied a need I had basically, and it felt right. And the more I learned about it, the more I learned about the variety of stuff that's out there. Because I'm also very, I think part of the thing is too spiritually, I'm very I like to play around a lot. I like to investigate and things like that. And I'm kind of a solitary. So yeah, it was perfect for me. It did not have a dogma, and especially since I really rejected Christianity in regards to its a lot of nastiness that is in that, and the fact that it's a conquering religion. So I mean, it worked for me. It worked really nicely for me, and I felt more connected to a divine force that I think I like too. The idea, at least in my spirituality, um, you can you can ask any goddess for things. You don't have to have one being. You can kind of flip between goddesses and gods and things like that. And I think maybe because I'm of a creative bent, that's kind of helpful for me. So
So, thank you. So, what is it, some of the things so you talk about comfort? That
hmm.
wasn't being comforting. I find that you're the first person that has actually said that they didn't find the original religion comforting as a reason to leave it.
I
Um,
grew up in a very, very nasty household. Well, yeah, I guess alcoholism, parents hated each other, mom fighting against me when she was pissed at dad, that sort of thing. I was also an overweight child, which didn't help.
mhm.
And so I would pray, please help me if when I was crying, please let this stop, please. And there was nothing. There was no, it wasn't even like, okay, they can't get mom and dad to stop drinking, but God didn't even fill me with any sort of peace. And a lot of
Hmm.
people, in fairness to Christians, a lot of people are able to achieve that. And they feel that, let's put it that way. I never got that from from that. So, it was 14 years of geez, and I remember this so clearly. One day I had a fight with my mom, and the church was right down the street, like 5 blocks. So I'm crying and I'm walking to the church, and you think in all the movies and stuff. Yes, they'll go into a church and they'll sit in the pew and they'll talk to God and He'll fill them with peace. And I get to the church and the doors are locked. I'm like, okay, fuck you. So I think that could have been the time when I'm like, I'm done. I'm done. And I understand it was like 5 o'clock. They might have locked it. They can't have the thing open all the time, but it just seems such a perfect metaphor in some respects. I'm like, okay, well, that showed me going on a different path. So, yeah, that
A
was the
lot of
base.
church, a lot of churches were closed 4 or 5 days a week. I mean, they were open on
Yeah.
Sunday and maybe a Wednesday night.
Hmm.
In my church, that's what I mean. I went to every when I was a kid. I went to every sermon, every piece. And I remember it was like Wednesday plus a club on Thursday, and then Saturday nothing, and Sunday would open the door. They
Wow.
would have two services
Yeah.
a day. I mean, and that was a full church. I mean, they were full thing.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, so that feeling locked away, I can understand. I mean,
Hmm.
that they're locking God behind these doors.
Hmm.
So you started to really look at metaphysics and become more pagan in your focus.
Hmm.
So what brought you comfort then? Or did anything bring you comfort?
It did. Like I said, it took a while, but once I started getting on the right path, so to speak, I think what I liked about it was I was in control, sort of.
Hmm.
I It's hard to explain because I do
Well,
believe in the divine, but also you got to play your part in that too. So
mhm.
what I was finding in books and such were ideas on how to fix myself. Ideas for rituals or concepts or studies in which, oh, that makes complete sense. Okay, I can put that into my little toolbox and all. And so I think that's what kind of I liked about it. I don't think you get that as with Christianity. It's like for the most part, it's boom. And the same with Judaism and Islam. It's boom. That's this is your path if you want to be a Christian, sort of. You might deviate a little. Maybe you're Baptist, maybe you're Catholic, whatever. But generally, this is the deal. This opened me up to all sorts of things, and I was able to use what worked for me. Whereas maybe in Catholicism or Christianity or whatever, it just didn't work for me.
So there you go. That's a good
Mm-hmm.
answer.
Yeah.
So you've gone on to be an author. I hear so many people say you want to be an author. Let me tell you, I'm barely an author. Yeah,
you,
um, it is true. I mean,
you got
I've
some
had,
stories to tell.
yeah.
You just haven't told them. That's what it is.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm afraid of editors.
Well,
Um, oh yeah, I am. I'm absolutely. If I have any weakness, it is that I hate editors as a rule, not as individuals, but editors. I just found them difficult uh, because I didn't get a solid grammar-based high school education.
me too.
So it's very difficult,
Yeah,
and they have
it
such
is.
attitudes. So I understand that. So I've never really written the books that I should have, but what
Mhm.
I did, but I do it through media. So
Yeah, you go.
I tell people that all the time. There are more than one because there's more than one path through it. I mean, today it's becoming seemingly more and more that if you want to be a high priest or something, you have to finish your thesis book. Um, Something that wasn't existent before. It was rare
Mhm.
that an author did a book, but
Yeah.
more and more, it's almost as if this next generation wants you to see your thesis.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm okay with that. I mean, that's the idea of maturity,
Yeah.
but it does feel very limiting. Because the first book I think you wrote, because you actually put me and Don into it, is
The Chicago's Most Wanted book. Yeah.
Chicago's Most Wanted book. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I thought that was very interesting that your
Mhm.
first book you wrote, if it is
Mhm.
your first book, I think it is.
Yeah, it was my. Well, no, it wasn't my first book I wrote. First book that was published.
That's what I mean. Okay. Is that you went very mainstream. Instead of writing
Mhm.
this metaphysical stuff, you wrote real facts about Chicago, like
Yeah.
crime scenes and all of that. And
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting that you wrote for a real audience in the sense of Chicagoans and anyone
Yeah.
who likes Chicago.
Hmm. Well,
Uh,
I've always wanted to be a writer, even when I was younger.
mm,
Even when I was
mm,
with the church and all. And it's like, but it was never about, never about religion or faith or anything like that. I just wanted to tell stories. Oh, I was originally wanted to be a fiction writer, but it's hard to break into fiction. So somebody suggested that he was working for this publisher with this Most Wanted series, and so he suggested I do a book in the series. So I
mm,
suggested Chicago, and I thought of it as a way to put my foot in the door because I'd never done anything like that before. So
mhm,
I did it, and it was fun, and it was, and I wanted to put you and Don in there to help, you know, open up the idea to paganism to a more normal, or I shouldn't say normal, mainstream audience, because at the time when this 2000, what was this, 2010, I think it
mhm,
was still considered, even now it's still considered like, oh, what's so, kind of by the mainstream, and like, no, it's
mhm.
it's a serious religion. And I had been through with you and Don about the PLC and all that stuff and the round table and things like that, and I wanted people to understand that there are,
Mhm.
I think I forget, were you in the names you should know? I'm not sure, but
Mhm.
we have a city here that's all like, we have so many religious um, temples and things like that, but nothing is paganism is a huge part of that, but it's never really focused on as much, So I wanted to. It was important to me to get you guys in there because it was important
And
what you guys were doing. I felt
and that book is still in publication, right? It's one of
it is.
yeah.
I think you can still get it on Amazon.
Oh, I've seen it
It
downtown
was
too.
2004. That's what it was, 2004.
Yeah.
So it's even older than that.
Um, because I've even seen it downstate in some of the tourist pieces.
Uh-huh.
So I always find that I'm always
That's
tickled
good
by
to know
that.
it's still out there.
Oh yeah.
I still do talks on it too.
Hmm?
So I still do talks on it.
I think it's one of those evergreen things. Yeah, it can be
Mhm.
updated with new facts, but all the old facts don't go away.
Yeah, yeah. And it's such, I mean, Chicago is such an amazing, interesting city. It really is
Yeah.
fascinating.
It's a very occult city.
Yes.
It's the most American, the most USA oriented city,
Hmm.
I think, in the entire nation because we were formed literally entirely from those people who didn't want to stay in New York or LA or anywhere else.
Exactly. Or
Yeah,
came
they came
over from,
overseas.
and yeah, we were like a little kind of New York, kind of an immigration there. I mean, that's the whole point of the neighborhoods. That's what one of the
Hmm.
things that makes it so awesome is the neighborhoods. You have an Italian neighborhood, you have an Indian neighborhood, you have a Korean neighborhood, and then when people have been going on about immigration this year or past year, I'm like, you don't understand. That is the power. That is the strength of the country. That is the strength of a place like Chicago. You need that. You need that variety to kind of sometimes work with each other, sometimes knock each other in the head. But you need that variety to strengthen it.
And we recognized that very
Mhm.
early on. And that's one of the reasons why Chicago is such a strong city. But it's
Mhm.
known because we pushed our supremacists, not just
Uh-huh.
white supremacists to the side. Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
There may be a lot of other things about Chicago. You may not like it, but we do have a very diverse city council. We do represent ourselves.
Yeah.
That's why we're kind of the enemy of any sort of white supremacist organizations.
As it should be.
But let's get on to a better subject, a more heightened subject, 'cause I think that's a very important subject, but not today. Is we're talking about Laura Enright, which she's an author of that, Chicago's Most Wanted. Talk about your metaphysical books, because you brought a couple of them now.
Well, actually, I mean, they're fiction. I guess you could call the vampire books metaphysical. The most recent one was the dragon one.
Right.
That really went into, that's Court of the Five Tribes,
Hmm.
published by Corellian Publishing. But that really, I had that bouncing around since the 90s. And I had this idea for five tribes of dragons, because it's
Hmm.
to go along with the Asian idea of the elements. So you have a wood dragon, a water dragon, wood dragon is air dragon, water dragon, metal, earth, and fire.
Mm-hmm.
And so the basic concept is these dragons are in this book, and there's one little dragon that has to unite them to help not only the dragons but also the human world. Um, and so it's yeah, so it was something that I might have come up with it because it was right after shortly after the time I got into metaphysics, and I kind of enjoyed the idea of each year being devoted to a particular um, animal and a particular element and stuff. So yeah, I think that's where that came from. But I did try to put you have a wizard in there, you have a talking horse, you have an emperor, things like that. It was a lot of fun to write, and I was very grateful that they published it.
And you can get it today.
Yeah.
And so there you go, CorellianPublishing.com.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so where do you plan to go from here? I mean, you told us a wonderful story. So where do you go? Well, let me go ahead and back it up. So it sounds like your trial's uh, been rough. Has there been ever a moment that you would say, "Oh, screw all this"? You did it with the Catholic Church already, and it
Yeah.
took you a while to recover. Has it ever, in this path, has that ever happened? That you want to give up? Yeah, that you would give up this path?
My, I kind of sort of. I felt a little abandoned. I mean, I've had in the 2000s,
Mm-hmm.
everybody's life kind of got messed up, but mine in particular. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went pretty, I mean, to give you an idea, for the past 20 years, well, past several years, I've been working 67 hours a week, 7 days a week, 1 day off a month, just to survive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in the early 2000s, I had to increase my workload. And I was getting close, and then bam, something hit, something. It took me years to get close to where I wanted to be, and then bam, something hit me. And I'm just talking about survival. So it was not a fun past couple of years or decades. And so there were times when I kind of like, okay, I don't expect you to make a miracle here. I don't expect you, I'm not looking for the Taj Mahal here, but can I have a little help? I felt sort of abandoned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember, like I think it was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there were a lot of there were a couple writing projects just blew up in my face in from like 2015 and 2020. So I think it was 2020. For some reason, well, I spoke to my manager at the library where I worked, and she had made a comment that sometimes you have to be grateful even when things are going bad. Sometimes you have to find things that are grateful. So I said to myself, I'm going to force myself every day to be great, to thank the universe for 10 things that I find grateful. Even if it was I got out of the house on time, that sort of thing. So and I did that. That raised my I guess the best way to say it is it raised my vibration. Doing something like that, which is basically a ritual, raised my vibration. I started also thinking, well, you know what? I'm going to start finding totems that represent various things like good luck or prosperity or happiness. I mean, I had a puppy picture that I put on the wall, and I put them all over the wall in each room.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have bird pictures and stuff, and my thought was, because I really wasn't sure. I really was debating if there was anything out there, that a force out there that was helping me. But I said, even if it's just me feeling happy by seeing a picture of a peacock or a picture of a laughing Buddha or something like that, even if it does that, it's going to raise my vibration somehow. So I did that. And I really think that kind of helped. I think that helped a lot, actually, not only getting me out of the funk that I was in mentally, but I think it helped bring better energy into my life. Because it was, and it was shortly after that I mean, I'm saying like everything that could go wrong kept going wrong, kept going wrong. So things started looking up a lot, and I had been trying to get out of this library that I just couldn't bond with for 10 years. That was one of the miseries. So, and I would apply, and nobody would want me, and I'd apply. So I finally applied to this place called the Chicago Cat Clinic that my dad had put the electrical in back in 1975. So I'm like, oh, this is good. And I ended up getting the job. And it seems so perfect. And it was just like things, and that was 1923. 19 it was 1923, 2023 that I started the job there, and things have been so much better. Now, part of that is being out of the environment that I was not liking before, but still, just so much better things have come into my life mentally and me, and I believe energy wise. So I do think those little totems might have added some energy, but I think also me being brighter, for in some respects forcing myself to look at better to things in a brighter mood, I think that helped bring some energy in too. So it was a journey, but I'm in a much better place right now.
You tell a very interesting, that's a very powerful statement. And that by changing your paradigms, by changing just how
Mm-hmm.
you looked at things, it was a very important part. I do believe that is one of the powers of paganism, say over Christian forms, is
Mm-hmm.
that we teach something called metacognition,
Mm-hmm.
and that means we think about how we think.
Yeah.
The great
Mm-hmm.
philosophers, I mean, things like that. Whereas a lot of religions want to limit your thinking to these subjects. We kind of see a lot of the good teachers in paganism teach
Mm-hmm.
us to say, okay, think for yourself. Think, why do you feel that way? They
Yeah.
call it therapy, but it's also built into it because
Mm-hmm.
you have to know yourself.
Yeah.
And that's
Definitely.
and that's why it's not so much of religion as in when you think of Christians, you think of Islam, you think of these hierarchical faiths.
Mm-hmm.
Paganism doesn't have that because it's teaching this sort of independence. And it sounds like this describes what you went through and continues to be
Yeah. Independence is a perfect term too, because before it was like if you went to a priest to say, "Oh yeah, I got this going on," and they would have some biblical advice for you. Whereas if you can find it, and it might work for somebody, but if you can find something on your own, then that's going to work better for you. But it might be against what the priest would tell you. To love thy mother and father. How could I love my mother and father the way they were acting? That was always a dichotomy there. So it's like, but that's against the Ten Commandments. Well, no, but it's reality. So it's like, and that could be one of the reasons I left too. That split sort of like, I'm looking at things in a rational manner, and I think you can work with the divine and the rational. There were times I'm like, I would go, I would go to my altar and be like, you know what? I am not apologizing for being upset here. That kind of thing. I didn't feel like I had to. I didn't feel like that was a bad thing to say that, because that's me. I prefer being honest, even with the divine. And as long as I, showed a level of respect, I thought that would be okay, and I think I like that about paganism. We really do have a personal relationship with the divine. I believe it's more than with the conquering religions. You have a personal relationship with the divine and how you can speak to them. And I think that's important.
so. One last thing, I think that it is. I'm hoping that you will come back as a commentator. I think you say a lot of great things, but let's go ahead and talk about that. You feel very free, and I to join especially my Facebook page, facebook.com, Ed the Pagan or Ed A. Hubbard. You can go to either one of them. Just put Ed the Pagan, you can track it down. And I have all these questions I've been putting out, and people give us really good answers.
Mhm.
It's a pretty low troll environment because we've done this for so long now. People know that
Yeah.
we're pretty serious about sometimes anything from the very serious to the very silly.
Hmm.
The latest one was about what if we put a spaceship of pagans together? What would we need?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Through there, I got a lot of serious answers. Um, but in this, you also comment a lot of what we see as a worldview, and we share
Mhm.
it, and you kind of respond to it in your own way, and you feel very free in America to state what you don't like and a lot of what you don't like in politics today. Can you talk about that verbal freedom that you've given yourself, or this text freedom? You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I, I'm waiting because you hear all these stories, and I'm waiting for
Hmm.
the time when they put the hammer down. But I think to me, it's important to be that free. Um, and I think about it sometimes, like in other instances too. It's like, I don't know if it's my age, I don't know if it's what I've been through, I don't know if it's because I just don't care anymore, whatever. but it's like, it's for me, it's important to put what I want to put out there because I think I'm very much into trying to help make society better for everyone.
Hmm.
And I don't want to hold back in that. And it might bite me in the ass one day. I mean, I remember when I was at another library, I was having a huge battle with the this is in the 2000s with one of the library board president who was essentially trying to like close us down. I mean, he was really against the library. He was a libertarian, really against the library. And I would go online. I'd go on his website in which he was trying to tell the people that the staff was trying to cheat them out of money because they were closing on Sundays. It was really sick, the stuff he was saying. And I just felt it was important to get the information out there. And even if it reached two people, at least that's two people that it hadn't been out there before. So to me, it was important to counter this. And I think I've always been that way in a lot of ways. So I think that's what I'm kind of when I'm free with talking on your pages, or you've seen what I've said on mine. It's like, I think it's important to get that information out there because the propaganda machine is massive right now. And the little guy really we really got to get the truth out there. And
So,
it's so easy to fool people.
it's no longer a propaganda machine.
Mhm.
It is a war machine, a weaponized war machine,
Exactly.
and the weaponization of words. It's no
Hmm.
longer simply, oh, you should believe this. It is we're at a psychological war of epic
Definitely.
proportions. And, and,
Definitely.
and it never could happen before. We've been building it for
Mhm.
100 years in so much way. But now we have the internet. We have this sort of
Oh
instantaneous
yeah.
communication. And I'm grateful for the internet because
Hmm.
telecommunication is my life. And I feel like we're heading into a telepathic world.
Hmm.
But it does give us voice. I mean, it does give you a voice. I mean, you talked about so many things. And one of the things I think you talk about is how women are getting treated and that they should be paying attention to how they're treated. I think you're a
Hmm.
very big advocate of the women's voice. But
Yeah.
not as like, oh, we're women, but more like this behavior is unacceptable. We should be looking for
Mhm.
better behavior. And I
Yeah.
really like that. Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm of the belief that I do think there's been a lot of misogyny over the years and such, but I'm of the belief that, right, in my mind, I know men who are assholes, I know women who are assholes. And so like I'm very balanced about that, but there are times when like the current administration is trying to take away women's rights, women's freedom, etc. And you see that on the little minions with the comments they make, and it's like, yeah, no, I think it's very important to
Hmm.
kind of counter some of that. And I want to encourage other people to. I want to encourage women to think for themselves.
Hmm.
Right now, uh, Stephen Miller's wife is. I just saw her the other day in an interview saying, "Oh, the most important job of ever because she's pregnant again is having children and being a mom." And I'm like, if you feel that way, that's fine, but that doesn't make it so. And you have somebody, JD Vance was somebody who was like, well, if you don't have kids, then you must be insane or psychotic or something. And it's like, no, everybody has to follow their own path. So, like, I don't have kids and I never want kids and I never wanted kids. That was fine. That doesn't limit me. That doesn't limit what I can do for the world. That doesn't make me anybody who can't do. I remember Condoleezza Rice, secretary. I think she was Secretary of State for Bush. A lot of problems with it, but she was interviewed in a 60 Minutes piece, and they asked her because she doesn't have kids or didn't have kids. They asked her, "Well, do you think you're missing something?" And I waited for the answer. She goes, "Well, no, I don't." And my thought was, "You never asked that of a man. You never asked that. I've never heard that asked of a man. Oh, you don't have kids. Do you think you're missing something?" So it's like we can't. These things have to be considered. And now they're trying to turn it to where it's like if you were a woman and you don't have kids and you don't want to be married, something's wrong with you. And that's not right. And it's almost like we're taking 10 decade steps backwards, going back to the 50s and the 60s where you gotta find your man. And so I think it's important to get we were progressing. It wasn't easy, but we were progressing. And now I would say the past 2 decades, definitely, we've been regressing for certain through certain people. And
Hmm.
now that, you have the Heritage Foundation and all that, um, it's going to get even harder, you know, to fight against these people. So I really, I probably am kicking myself in the ass with this, but I just feel it's important for me to be as, like I said, if I could change one mind, that's great.
Yeah, the other day I made a very what people said was a non-Christian statement or a anti, and some people went and said it was an anti-Christian statement when I said I don't believe Jesus is going to return.
Good.
And Armageddon is a war
That was
crime.
ridiculous.
What?
I saw that, and that was the response was ridiculous.
You know,
Hmm.
people want to protect that idea, even though I
Yeah,
think we teach like Islam teaches war, Christianity, we believe it's okay to teach war and that
yeah.
Armageddon is the correct thing, but then we also
Hmm.
fight it saying we don't want genocide, we don't want these. And
Hmm.
so we have our central doctrine of the
Hmm.
world. I mean, it's not just us, it's
Yeah,
Jewish,
yeah.
it's the three religions all have this idea that war is war. I mean,
Hmm.
that war is
Hmm.
okay if you're fighting somebody who's not of your religion.
Yeah,
You talk about the conquering religion, so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
just
No,
that.
and they have, and Christianity does have a faction, which I think part of them are in the administration now, where they want Armageddon because that has been in their mind that's when they're going to get the reward.
But,
Armageddon, you're going to be going up to the heavens and all that. And it's like,
mhm.
you guys are insane, in my opinion. But it's like you want, so that's why that's why they want to protect Israel as much as they're protecting Israel, and that's why they want to put certain chess pieces out there to bring
Mhm.
on Armageddon, not to avoid it, bring it on so that they can fulfill God's promise.
And even if Jesus doesn't return and there's a big war, people
Yeah.
don't understand. Well, after Genghis Khan left, it restructured the entirety of Europe into feudal structure.
Yes.
It freed up a lot of people. When these big wars happen, I mean, we got a really good closed order system. I mean, we got a long peace for the last war because it
Hmm.
didn't leave any of the systems, even in the countries that they came from, intact.
Uh-huh.
So I do think that the Christians are under some really. I was raised clans. Everybody knows I was a Klansman. Not I was not a Klansman, but my father was, and my grandfather
Uh-huh.
was. And I was trained in that reality. Um, I always talk about Dominion. I've been telling people this is coming,
You
but
made
they.
yourself out of it. You made your way out of it. That's the key.
Oh no, I made myself
Hmm.
a radical of it. I mean, I'm going to go against it. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm a revolutionary in that aspect. But we're getting drifting off from Laura Enright,
Uh-huh.
author, woman of and I mean that in
Sure.
this because I mean that in the sense of that you are of yourself,
Yes.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And you're not apologetic for it.
Yeah.
And author of 6 books. We talk about Court of the Dragon at Chicago Publishing, Wanted Chicago. We'll talk to her more about her books later. And you will see her later this year as she feels about making comments, like you just heard, making commentary, so that we can speak not just to the ideas of our community, but how we form them.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
our big challenge this year. Are we going to be metacognition of our own community?
Yes. And I do think we have to put ourselves out there more. We really do.
And
We
you
have
do,
to we have to normalize our faiths, variety of faiths. We have to normalize our faiths the way Christianity has been allowed to be normalized. Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism. Well, Islam is still having an issue with, people thinking everyone's a terrorist, but Judaism, we have to normalize our right to speak of our faith freely and not be, and some do. I'm sure some do. I started it myself, but I think we need to encourage more people to do that, because I think that's where our power is going to stay, because it's as legitimate as any other faith out there.
and with that, we agree. And there we go. I'll give her the last word. I can't beat that. And so I'll be back with the Pagan Show, bringing you more interesting people, people that you really need to know, like Laura here. And thank you for listening. Remember, hit a like wherever you're watching this, leave a comment, and amplify, amplify, amplify. Every time you share what we do, you increase our audience base, we create our communication base, and it'll help all of us. More to come, but thank you, Laura, for being here.
Thanks, Ed, for having me.